Kids.
Okay. Keep waiting.
What's today's date?
13.
13th.
Parents' anniversary.
All day.
All right. Call and order the November 13th, 2017 meeting of the Police Building Study Committee. We have two members that will be late. Guess we'll take a look over the minutes from the last meeting.
All right, so we're missing the 16th and the 25th.
Yes, there still haven't been put in final.
Okay.
There's just a date change on the, under where it says next meeting, the second bullet point.
Yep.
It says we'll be invited to the meeting on 11/13, not 16.
Okay. Eleven, 13. Got it.
At the top of page 3, just a little tiny one. But it says and on, it should be one. Second word in.
Okay.
Do we motion to accept the minutes as corrected?
I second it. Was that your motion?
Yeah.
Sure, we'll make that motion.
Yeah. That's my motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, moving on. old business, utilities. Quite a few utility issues to talk about. Joyce, do you have any updates on anything?
Yeah, you look at the sewer one you got in front of you. Remember that question that was raised on the,
Looks like it's clear as mud, though.
what?
Looks like it's clear as mud.
Why?
On the motion, given our guests in the audience, rather than spend whatever time we're gonna use on utilities, we let Captain Joubert jump ahead, so we don't.
Sure, we can
sit
do that.
through sewer and everything else.
Sure, we can.
Time is
we can do that.
It's kind of reverse.
So, Cap, if you wanna come on up.
Well,
Come on up.
It's deputy, right?
Deputy. Deputy. Chief.
Sorry,
Oh, that's okay.
I wanted to say anything but Tim.
All right. So we're gonna say Eric?
Please.
Sure.
Thank you for coming.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for inviting me.
So they wanted to pick your brain on what the fire department would be requiring for a police station, and I think I sent you the images.
Yeah, I've got it in here.
Okay, you have all that, so that's kind of why we wanted to pick your brain.
So the fire district has a life safety ordinance, so we follow the NFPA. So if the NFPA requires it, that's what we enforce. We don't require anything above or beyond. We might recommend it, but we don't require it.
Gotcha.
So for the police station, for the drawing that you sent me, it's really classified as a business occupancy, because there's no cells there. So if you were to build it as is, if the big question is a suppression system, then the NFPA would not require that. Based on the footprint that you showed me, would I recommend it? Of course I would recommend it. I think it's the ultimate level of protection for the employees and the people there. But is it required as of right now, from what I've seen from that initial drawing? No.
Well, aren't there gonna be holding cells there? For the-
I was told that there wasn't going to be. Are they in the drawing?
Well, they're on there, but they're temporary for booking. That's where they hold the individual when
In
they
a
book
similar
them.
situation that they have now, Tim.
Okay. So they'd always have somebody there though, right?
Yes.
Right. You see on the, see, yeah, down on the, let me get the plan up, I'll tell you where it is. So that it would be on the basement.
You know what, I think I only have the first floor. I can get the copy.
Well,
It's all
evidence, it's all one floor, so then you would look at, break room, wait a minute. The cage, the prisoner process, the cell and cell by the carport. You see the
Oh,
carport?
okay, Sally Port,
To
okay.
the right of that, where it says prisoner process, and then to the right of that, there are two cells.
Okay. I honestly, without, I apologize, I just totally missed that when I looked at it real quickly. I'd have to go back and review then. If it's not required by code, be sprinkled, then we wouldn't ask for it.
Yeah.
You know, we'd recommend it, so, I'd have to go back and look though, to give you a correct answer.
Okay.
So I can do that and email you, Joyce.
Okay.
All
Now,
right.
you said NFC?
NFPA.
Oh, NFPA,
National
Fire Prevention Code?
Mhm.
So, one of the things we were exploring was, it might be cost effective for us to plumb everything, whether or not we connect it. We can leave everything above the ceiling until some future time if we need to or have to, or do you see other businesses or buildings doing that kind of thing?
We do. Matter of fact, before the water was put on Business Park Drive, there were two buildings that had that in place.
Okay.
We can definitely utilize that system. If there is a fire, it's not as effective, obviously, because you have to supply the water, and it's not as quick and immediate.
Yeah, yeah,
But we have had that, and other businesses, you know, have hooked up to the water main later on down the road.
Yep.
So that is something that we've seen from time to time.
If it's, okay, so if it's in and we have sprinkler heads, are we required to pressurize them if they're showing, or is that just like a hydrant thing?
No, you don't have, yeah, I mean, you can put a system in and not have a water supply. for it.
Yeah, we're just
Oh, good.
covering our bait, yeah.
Yeah, that was
came
something,
up,
that's
just,
the question that I wrote.
You know, do we have to leave everything hidden, or because of the case of if there's a hydrant
Right.
showing
No.
in the street, that would, you'd have to have water to it, otherwise.
False sense of security.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think the biggest thing is, as far as the fire department goes, is that we would just have to educate our staff to know that there's this,
Yeah.
you know, there'd be something in there that we would have to be able to utilize, so that we're aware, so, yeah, no, it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
Deputy, in the plans for this, should we incorporate dry chemical fire extinguishers in their boxes, in the corridors, et cetera, as part of the building product?
Yeah, so, you're gonna probably have to have a fire alarm system.
Right, I understand.
Which will incorporate to your sprinkler system later on down the road. The state fire code does require that there be fire extinguishers present. They actually have to be wired into the fire alarm system.
Oh, I see.
So like if you go to any new construction that's taken place recently, like the Walmart or any of the Hobby Lobby, if you look at the fire extinguishers, there's wires coming from them. And it accomplishes a couple different things. One, if it gets pulled, it gets notified, but if there's a drop in pressure or if there's an obstruction, it also goes into as a notification to the building manager. So just make sure that they're ready for operational use at all times. But yes, you would need to have fire extinguishers.
Okay, good.
So yeah, the fire alarm system, the fire extinguishers, emergency lights, exit signs, all those things would be required.
For life safety.
For life safety, correct.
Do you have any systems where the fire department can hook a water line to it?
So if you had, let's say, just a square box with a sprinkler system in it, we could supply it with our apparatus that carries water. We could, if there was a hydrant nearby, we could go from the hydrant to a piece of apparatus to the building, so we could adjust the pressure as needed. So there's a couple different avenues that we could do. Is it ideal? No, but we could do it.
Well, when you just said earlier that, well, we said earlier that we could have a water system, sprinkler system set up but not hooked up. And that would be the best thing to do.
Until,
To have an outside connection for the fire department. to plug
Right, so
right into.
if you had a sprinkler system, you need something, they all come, I apologize, what's called a FDC or fire department connection. So that connection is standard on all those
Oh,
systems.
standard.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
standard, so we have the ability to hook a hose up to it.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
It's not the ideal situation.
No, it's definitely not ideal, but if it's a work in progress, it's a work in progress.
Any special pressure we have to handle or something like that?
We would be the ones supplying the pressure, so if there's no water supply to it, we would supply the water and the pressure through a piece of apparatus.
So if we just supplied the water to it, then what would the pressure have to be?
We would start off by pumping it at 150 PSI.
No plastic lines.
No, if you're putting the system in, it's gotta be what's called an NFPA 13 system, which is black iron.
Just joking, yeah. That's pretty good pressure.
You could never do that off of a well, could you?
It depends on the type of system. So the system that would be required for, like if you were to put a police station in, no, probably not, but like smaller residential systems can go off wells. They're putting in a new complex off of Cardigan Court that has a residential sprinkler system, so that's a plastic pipe system. So it's a little bit different. The requirements for those type of systems are not necessarily to put the fire out, it's just to allow the occupants to get out of the building. So it's just to hold the fire in check, whereas what you would be doing in the police station would be to extinguish the fire. So there's a lot more water and a lot more pressure involved with it.
Could you ever do it with a well if you had a designated well
So-
just for,
With a well, there'd be an added cost of a fire pump,
yeah?
because you have to get the water from the well into the system and have it pressurized.
Mhm.
But you could do it, you could do a tank if you want to say, like, Like Town Line Plaza, they utilize that type of system with a fire pump and a tank underneath. BJ's, the same thing. Lowe's, Home Depot, they have above ground tanks that you see, but it's kind of the same system. So they have the stored water that's required, but they use a fire pump to create the pressure to move the water.
How do you figure how much stored water you need? Is that by the square footage or?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different calculations. Your architects, or whoever's designing the system would come up with that. But yeah, you would determine it that way. Square footage, the contents that are gonna be in the building.
So if we were to look at something without hooking up to municipal water and had our own well for water, and then we had our own,
I don't know if a well would be the correct term to use for it. It would be a water tank. Because
well, that's what I meant, if we had our own well for
cistern.
water and stuff, and then we had our own pump and tank
Pressurized
for
tank, yeah.
fire suppression, that may suffice.
Correct, and you could, and there are places that have the well with a small feed to the tank to refill the tank if it was ever used. So
How do we
that
find
is-
out about that, though?
How to find out if it's something that's possible?
So that would be our architect. What, if we wanted to find out the cost of going that route, it would be, we could go to Gary and say, hey, Gary, what do you think the cost is versus this?
I would recommend, if you're really like going down that road to research this information, you could work with your architect, but I could also give you a bunch of names for companies that the fire district has worked with over the years that might be a good resource to you as well.
Okay.
Because your architect will subcontract that out to them anyways. They're the ones who will do the design for the building.
Well, I think that's what the committee's kind of looking at. We were kind of looking at other avenues other than for cost, to see what would the cost be to hook up to municipal water, go that route and, sprinkle or not sprinkle the building, or get our own well and maybe pump and whatever if needed, fire suppression system, what that would cost versus hooking up to municipal.
I'm not sure of the cost associated with hooking up to the municipal. I know that when you're talking about a tank and you're talking about a fire pump, there's more annual costs with maintenance because they have to be inspected manually, things break on it that they have to be replaced. Whereas if you're part of a municipal system, kind of all that goes away. It's just the water that's coming from the street. So I don't know, cost benefit analysis between the two, but there is more maintenance and routine costs if you have the fire pump in the tank.
I actually do more work last 20 years in water instead of sewer. And you take a 10,000 gallon pressurized tank, rubber lined, you're looking at 45, 50,000. And you can maintain these with air pressure like 40 to 60 pounds, That's a normal setup. But if you put booster pumps in, like I said, booster pumps will maintain the pressure a lot closer, but it's going to cost you more to operate it, and when the power goes out, they don't work. But the pressurized tank will give you water all day long, because it's pressurized, where the booster pumps, it gives you nothing.
So that's a good point with the pump. There's a reliability that you have to look at. So a lot of places that have pumps will have a backup generator that runs that pump. The code also allows if you want to, let's say, do an electric fire pump instead of another fuel source, the code does allow for a study of the power for the area, outages and all that stuff. And if it's considered reliable, then that's another avenue that you can go through as well.
Plus, you're going to have to do state sampling all the time.
Well, it's gonna have a backup. We already know that if we build it, it will have a backup generator because we already have one from Homeland.
Yeah, but state sampling is a public place, right? Public going to use the water, so
Right.
then it's going to be annual sampling of the water too all the time.
Yeah, quality tests.
Yeah.
That's not, but we had that at the senior center and that wasn't expensive at all.
No.
They don't do VOC, SOCs, and IOCs, those are $300 a piece. You know? We are
Not
lucky.
anymore now because we're hooked to municipal water. No.
I know.
So you go from your well, we're gonna put in a new well, it's $10,000 for the well, $5,000 from the well to the pump house. Because the pump's gonna be in the well, and then they got the wiring and all that. I already got those estimates on the job that I'm putting in. And then, of course, you gotta have the pump station, storage tank, and the rest of that hooked up like you were saying, but I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna put a pump house, could be a room added onto this or separately, then that's another expense. So you could probably be in the vicinity of, you're almost getting closer to the hookup fee, yeah. I mean, if you get $125,000 wrapped up in your own well, you're getting closer to, what we've been talking about.
But that's if you're gonna use your own well to provide fire suppression.
Correct.
Okay.
No,
Not necessarily,
no,
no.
using
Well,
your
we
own
got
well.
one, yeah, we got an estimate though.
But
Oh, did
using
you?
your own well for the water, but then using a tank and pump and all that for your fire suppression. Once you add all of those components up, it may cost you almost that much.
Okay.
We already have a kind of a
So my
stab
ballpark
in
on the
the
well,
eye.
Just the well is about 15.
15?
I thought I emailed that to everybody.
That's including hookup.
Which we've determined in the first 5 minutes of the.
$13
dialogue
a
was not
foot.
required.
Capital
Not
well,
required to sprinkle the building.
he estimated me 10,000 and 5,000 for the hookup, so.
Yeah.
The volume figure.
You didn't see that there were cells in there.
You have to go back and review that. I can't tell you 100% without
Yep.
reviewing the themselves.
But like you said, on the holding on the amount of water, the engineer would be more,
I'm sorry.
the engineer would probably give us a better idea on the holding.
Yeah, so.
5,000, 10,000. yeah.
Right, right.
If you're gonna get a system for this building, you're gonna work with a sprinkler company who have fire protection engineers. And they'll give you the options and the costs associated with whether, you're going off the municipal system or if you're gonna do it off of a tank and a pump.
So you're just basing it on your life safety codes and maintaining life safety.
Correct, correct. That's, like I said, we don't require anything unless it's required by the code. So the fire department's not gonna come in and say, you have to do this because we want you to do it.
Right.
I'm gonna encourage it, like I said, but we're only gonna require it if it's required by the code.
Yeah. Got it.
Cool. I'm good. Anyone else?
You missed part of it, Kevin, but.
Yeah, I'll get caught up, I think, through,
He's fine.
my question, I guess, to the group, maybe while Tim is here, if it doesn't pertain to Tim, if you want to let him go, but, and I missed the last two meetings. I did watch the video, so I heard most of the discussion. But with that said, are we open for discussion of the principle of installing a sprinkler system?
We led with that we led with that.
Okay,
Right, before you
just to
came
protect a couple of different things.
Yes.
To protect the investment.
Yes.
And I think this committee needs to commit one way or the other, yes or no on sprinkler. And then, what's our water source?
Right.
My concern with the water source connection is, long-term, would we be sending the wrong message by not hooking up to municipal water?
But I think you mentioned to have it in place anyways, is a good idea.
Yeah, if that's the road like you choose to do, if it's not required by the code and you wanna make that investment to put a system in there and decide whether or not, you're gonna sometime down the road look into the system or do your own well, that's allowed as well.
I think that you've answered our questions quite well, Tim, and I appreciate you taking time out of your evening
Yeah,
to.
thank you for.
Thanks, Tim.
Down.
Appreciate it a lot.
Any questions?
Very enlightening.
I think everybody all set with Tim?
Yes.
Any more questions? No, appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Tim, so much.
You're welcome.
I think if we put a well in, we ought to put it in a situation that the lot next door needs water, they can buy it. From us.
It's funny that you say that, and
looked up to it.
that was one of the things that I had thought of after watching the video was the discussions about putting a well in, kind of somewhat of a joke of, selling our well water to the lot next door. Well, I mean, if we step back and think about the fact that we have municipal water at our fingertips, is it expensive? I don't think any one of us would disagree that yes, it is expensive. But that's pretty pricey to hook up. But I think it would be wrong for us to not hook up to it if it's right there in the street. It's either that or do we pick a different lot somewhere else in town? It would, I also think it would, I've thought long and hard about it, it would be wrong for us not to sprinkle and hook to municipal. We've had situations on that very street where they had over $3 million loss.
Night, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you again. They had over a $3 million loss because they were not fully sprinkled. And I professionally struggle with that because it was all about money.
And of course, you're gonna always have upkeep, like you're saying,
I agree. So,
So in the interest of Tim's time, we skipped on the utilities. We didn't hit that yet on the
Okay.
agenda. We just kind of wanted to value his time and then.
Okay. I mean, I kind of walked in,
Yeah.
obviously 40 minutes late. If you want to continue to run the meeting.
Just
go
mixed it up a little.
Go ahead.
All we're doing now is just going back to old business and talking about utilities.
Okay. Was there, well, you had the agenda as far as talking about utilities, because that's what you talked about last meeting, correct? Was to put that on the agenda. I haven't read through all of these, Joyce, but you have.
I haven't either.
You have quite a bit in here about sewer.
Yes.
So,
There's no written document, other than the letter that I put on top
Yeah. Just,
to Peter from Casey.
and then the minutes from the sewer commission meeting.
Right. But if you read through the minutes, I don't know if the highlighted sections showed up. My original was highlighted. To work out the cost to hook up, who was supposed to be responsible for paying for that, because there was some mention in here about the selectman requiring a bond to secure that he would do the extension
in the minutes,
in these sewer commission minutes.
where is,
Whereabouts? Well, we kind of have to go. Here, does somebody have the one that's got all the pink on it? Oh, it could still be in the copier. And we don't have the selectmen's minutes.
The only thing that I see under sewer commission 24 August 1995 is that it says the Forge asked Sanborn, who left early last week, whether his understanding from earlier meetings that Nickerson intended to carry the sewer line all the way to Sanborn Road. Yes, it was. Other than that, I don't see anything that pertains to that.
Well, when I spoke with Johanna and I asked her if I could borrow the plans to show you, that was the original intent. When you look, you can see the sewer line going all the way down. But the,
the very last page shows that they approved the plan to leave the town shed property, which was then now the 99, right?
Mhm.
So you're on the last
On the very last page, middle, kind of gray.
30
highlighted-
March 95?
Highlighted in gray.
Yep.
right, and then Johanna said that they had to make some adjustments in the field because they hit so much ledge. And I can show you, if I can clear this all off, where the line goes, where the last manhole is and where the line goes.
On Industrial Park Drive?
But it hadn't been constructed. just because I haven't eaten.
Approve the sewer plans for Clark, Case, so that goes from the 99 up through the woods, basically?
Are there any businesses up there now connected to the sewer line?
Sea Light is connected to the sewer line from the other end, from the 99, right?
Is that the intention for everyone to go out that direction?
No, no. That's why the letter is saying bring it up to 132.
Right, this is the subdivision plan. Here is, this S is sewer. And you come here to this manhole. This is lot 15, manhole A7. And the plan called for sewer to go all the way down. But when they were in there working, they hit too much ledge. So they said, okay, they're gonna come off this manhole. All right, so I've got to match the sheet 55A. Okay, so here's manhole A7, here's sewer line, and then see it goes to this future sanitary service by others. And then it comes out over here.
Is that up on 132?
Here. So this plan,
Yeah.
it stops up probably about in front of 13.
Does that cross lot 15 at any,
No, it
No,
goes way back
14.
though.
Way up.
And the other thing that was
13 or
interesting,
14.
see, everything up above is all gravity fed. But from this manhole A7, anything after that has to be pumped up.
On this plan here, there's a manhole right here. That's noted. So is that that A7 manhole?
Very well could be.
Amazing.
This one.
Yeah, it very well could be because it goes up here, right?
Here's
Right.
A7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So there's sewer to here?
yes,
Mhm.
So
this
we
way,
just-
this way,
Mhm.
Right.
okay, but not down to
Right.
here,
To the corner.
right?
Is there sewer that goes down, is there sewer on 132 or no?
No.
No. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
And they couldn't get sewer, see, because Casey owns all the land behind that.
He owns
As well.
this right here, all this up in
So
here.
the plan was to come off this manhole and pick up those in the back, but this would all have to be pumped up.
So how far away are we from the sewer line? It's above the lot.
Above, well, here, that's just our lot, it's right here.
Our lot is 328 feet.
It's gotta be probably 500 feet.
Who does the utility assessment? If it's for sewer, would it be the sewer department? Can we ask for a full assessment from them?
Well, they referred you to Johanna, this is the information I got from Johanna. Because this is before anybody else on the sewer commission.
Okay. I guess what I would do is, I think we should potentially request in writing to Johanna or whoever the authority is at the sewer department to give us a written reply on what needs to be done.
In order to get sewer to lot 15,
Yes.
and the cost. And who,
And
and
who's paying?
who, right,
Right, and they said to check with Johanna,
who owns the cost?
and this is the information we have.
Okay, so we need to talk with Johanna to find that out.
And she would say, this is all the information that I have.
We
If we
have to
wanted
have
sewer-
somebody make a decision.
If we had wanted sewer, would she be the person to say?
No, it would be the commissioners.
The commissioners would decide.
Right. They have to decide what, they have to, correct me if I'm wrong, they have to interpret this and make a decision based on what this says. Does this say that he's required to, the next buildable site on Business Park Drive, to move that sewer down to 132, which everybody assumes that that's what he's saying here. But legally, is
That's
this,
what we need to know.
We need a legal interpretation.
is this enough for them to do that? That's done by the sewer commissioners, that's not done by us.
So is that who we need to approach to get
Yes.
this? Okay, well, that's, we need to get those numbers.
Right.
Right, but what the sewer commission would be doing is that they would just be reviewing plans.
But they
So
have-
Whatever they
yeah,
gotta
this
do.
is,
They don't quote numbers.
right. they
They're
don't-
not the guy putting the.
Right.
or
Who
gal
quotes
putting the
numbers?
pipe.
Your
The contractor
engineer.
putting the pipe in the ground.
Right,
Yeah,
Okay, so we need to determine who's paying for it first, right?
yeah,
our first thing.
that's the key.
Once we find out who's paying,
Then we,
the latter may not matter. If we're not
That's
paying, we
correct.
don't care, right? I
Right.
mean, essentially, it only matters if we're paying.
well, yeah, technically, but not for public discussion. Yeah,
At some point, the town, planning, zoning, whatever, it allowed this developer to open an industrial park. And there may have been conditions in that approval that said, sure, you can subdivide lots, and you just have to make sure that you provide X, Y, and Z.
right,
So,
And his intent says, yeah, it's our intent to provide, he's already provided water, which shows, I mean, that action shows his intent, because he's brought water to lots, and then there's that whole cost of involved.
so what's the next step to,
Well, also, I had asked if there were any as-bills that the sewer commission has to show what was actually built. And Johanna said she didn't know of any.
Yeah.
This is all she had.
no, because that goes down to, it either goes down to the 99, or it goes up in back of lot, in the lot, but there's no pumps or anything like that there.
True, but when in the field, she said changes were made in the field to what was originally approved.
Oh, okay. Got it. That's just what she
So,
said. Yeah,
because technically it should have went through the property, to our property, but it sounds like because of the ledge, they deferred
they
that.
changed it.
So, in theory, because of the problems that they ran into, they changed it for them, but
So,
it shouldn't affect.
where does that line stop? Did they build that line?
They only put enough service in for the occupied.
I don't think they built it.
I don't think it's there.
Am I right by thinking that that's not this committee's responsibility to do the assessment of the sewer? That's,
No.
in my mind, we should,
we're either gonna we have to hook up to sewer, so we know that.
well, it's
So-
either that or we're not using that lot.
Exactly,
It's-
right.
It's
I
one of
mean,
those
I
two
don't
options.
think it's our responsibility to look at the assessment of the sewer. We're gonna have sewer there, we're gonna hook
Somehow.
into sewer.
It's gotta be hooked up to manhole A7.
Right, but that's somebody else's responsibility. It's not this commission, this committee's responsibility.
Right.
Okay.
It is our due diligence to find out the cost of that and who bears the cost of that.
Or negotiating the price of the lot, is that? included?
Exactly.
Is that
And that's the selectmen's purview. So it's not the committee's purview to do
So
that.
it's, we're adding another
Exactly. So I would.
number thing that we gotta wait on.
Right.
Can we, or should we motion to request a legal interpretation of who's responsible for supplying sewer to Lot 15?
They would, the attorney would wanna look at what's in the record. And what's in the record is what you have, except for selectmen's minutes, where the selectmen might have discussed this back in 1995.
Right, but
That's
the legal
exactly-
interpretation is what we need, whether,
We need a synopsis,
right.
We don't know if we did in 95.
because we'll spin idle wheels
or the park owner won't.
It kinda goes back to the water thing, and I don't know if anything's come up on that, we still don't.
Yeah, I don't think we have.
What they're saying is, Joyce, that based on the information that we have here in front of us right now, would the board, can we take it to the board and ask them for a legal interpretation of it,
Of these documents.
of these documents? We
No,
actually
yeah.
bring it to Jesse for now, right?
And what you're saying, it's not part of this committee, I mean, we're trying to find this information out, but based on the big picture, it's kind of it's pertinent to what we're doing, you know, these are all cost factors, that's what we're looking into the final number.
So let us bring it to the, let Joyce and I bring it on Thursday evening, present it to the selectmen, and then we can either bring it to Jesse first, and then propose Jesse first, and then see what he says, and then perhaps maybe go to somebody a little bit more sophisticated in this kind of thing, because we're gonna have to have an answer one way or another.
When is the sewer commission meeting?
If the sewer commission only comes up with this amount of information, they're not gonna be able to come up with who's gonna pay who. They're not gonna come up with that answer.
But when it went to before the planning board, wouldn't the planning board have had to have had these types of issues ironed out? At least if there was a sewer line there, and wouldn't it have been in some type of conditions of approval?
We'll check with that too. It had to have
I didn't
been
get a chance to do that today, but
1995 when this went in. When did it go in? 1990?
95.
You know, just out of curiosity, and I'm not sure you wanna, has anybody reached out to Casey to see if,
We've been talking to Casey.
Oh, yeah.
to see what his, I mean,
We've been talking to him.
so he's come up with a conclusion, what he feels
Mhm.
is expected, okay.
Yep.
The other interesting thing is, remember on our subdivision plan, it shows a sewer easement here. And remember Gary said it was some sort of telephone easement.
Yep.
Well, according to the recorded plan, it's a sewer easement. So the only thing I can think of, if I check the dates, is that this might have been put in after because they couldn't get the sewer line in the road, because the sewer line goes in the middle of the road. And Johanna said that the contractor and the engineer, they hit too much ledge. So maybe that's why they revised it, but when you look at the plan, it's going up here, not here. So that was another thing that was interesting. But the original plan showed the line going directly down the middle of the road all the way to Route 132.
But that's not an as-built.
No.
This is not an as-built. What's the date on this?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
They
95.
deviate off course because there's a
Right
manhole
here,
at
90
the top of
August,
the road.
added, revised sanitary sewer, added ledge probe info. 9/5, added force main and insulation. I don't see a force main on here. Install force main with constant upward slope to tie in with manhole.
I respect the fact that they've provided us with these, but I think that's way out of the purview of this committee. Unless the selectmen tell us something different, I think we just need to know what the cost is and if it is feasible.
Yep.
This will bog us down if they're expecting other people.
Well, a lot of these things are bogging us down because we don't have any of the figures. I mean, and that's really all we need. We don't need the logistics of it. You know, we just need, it's going to cost us this much to hook up to water, this much to hook up to sewer. You know, that's gonna determine our vision of this site.
This will cost us $150,000 to hook up the water, then tell us that. If it's gonna cost us
Right.
$100,000 to hook up the sewer,
It isn't
tell
just,
us that, and then we can make
the
decisions.
details are irrelevant. It's really the bottom, it's the number. That's what we're in charge of coming up with to see if this site is going to be viable. And those numbers are effective.
Now, when we negotiate a deal on that lot, and you're so many feet away from your sewer line, that could be a negotiation issue too. right?
I mean, these things should be,
No, this is troublesome dust way over there, you know, you don't have it down here. So there should be some give and go there, and not favorable.
these numbers should come in before even the negotiation comes up for the site, because these are all hidden costs that the site may be worth this much, but if you gotta spend $250,000 to hook up to these things, that adds or distracts the value from that lot. I
So we're
mean,
hoping the appraisal will pick up on that. $1,000 a parcel for it.
Pat, would you say that, I guess, let me say what my interpretation is that there's a lot of work with this particular, now that this committee's chosen a site that we're favorable for, that it appears to me that there's a ton of work now that is in the hands of the selectmen. Or am I misinterpreting?
it's not in our hands.
Yeah, I guess that's probably the better way to see it. It doesn't seem like it's in our hands. Especially if the selectmen are already doing work on things that we're working on. Like talking to Casey, there's a lot of...
If there's already been a discussion of price, we'll have a discussion of cost.
Yeah, those things are all out of our hands. We've now chosen a lot, this committee. You know, we're favorable for lot 15. We're good. So it seems to me that there's really only one thing left for us to do, and that's to review the building itself and make suggestions.
Our original selection of this lot was contingent.
On cost, on appraisal.
Specifically worded that it was contingent upon the appraisal and what's.
And there's a lot of other costs that...
Right, that these things weren't brought up when we first decided this. I mean,
So,
that's why those numbers are crucial.
we like it, we don't love it yet, because we don't know.
Right,
what the
right.
law will actually-
And we've decided based on our speculation, but that's all it is speculating costs. I mean, these are a lot of hidden costs.
And I couldn't present it in good faith at town meeting without.
No, absolutely not. That's why we need these figures.
I think at this time, we'd probably be better off to go into a non-public,
Okay.
so that Joyce and I could give you some information, and we can't give you all the information because it's non-public, but it would probably help us out in the direction. So I'll make a motion to go into non-public, RSA 91A:3, acquisition and sale and lease of land.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
All those in favor? Yeah, roll call vote. Tom?
Aye.
Yes.
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 Good job.
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Tom? Okay. Chuck?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Make
We
a
have to motion to seal the minutes.
Make a motion, we seal the minutes of the
Second.
non-public pertaining to land acquisition,
So the land is resolved.
until the matters are resolved.
Right.
Second.
Second, Tom?
Yes,
And roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. Motion to enter into public session?
We're in it.
We're in it.
You're in it when you exit it.
You're in it.
Right.
You got room to get out.
That's it. You're out, you're in.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have another date?
Back up.
I think it depends on what they decide.
Yep.
Maybe
I think
Thursday,
we're in standby mode.
potentially Thursday if they want.
And what time Thursday is that meeting?
7:30. If you get here at 7:30, you'll be all right.
We'll let you know.
5 acres on
I'll
Calvert
let
really
you
wants
know,
to-
but right now,
Yeah.
it's 7:30, so